Hi, all your genealogy gems out there. Lisa Louise Cooke coming back to you one more year from Rootstech, 2016. Now, you know this last year we launched the Genealogy Gems Book Club, and we have heard from so many of you that you're devouring the books. I'm excited to say that we have a fabulous author here today to bring you via the YouTube channel, and that's Bruce Feiler. Hi, Bruce.
So nice to be here.
Nice to have you
You're
here.
a veteran. I feel like I'm, I want you to take me by the hand and show me around this entire space.
Oh, it would take about the whole 4 days, wouldn't it, to get through the expo hall?
Inspiring, I have to say.
Yeah, and inspiring is the word that I've been hearing, about your book, The Secret to Happy Families. We all love families, and I was intrigued. I sat through your TED Talk, listened to that, loved it, and was listening to some podcast interviews, so I've been hearing behind the scenes on the plane out here. And one of the things you talked about was tapping into other areas, industries, brain trusts, if you will, to convert that back into how could a family use that. And that intrigues me because at Genealogy Gems, and you guys all know this, I'm all about how does a collection agent find living people? How does a private detective find living people? And how can we use that for genealogy? So how did you apply all this to families?
Well, let me just first of all say that I wrote about happy families not because I had one, but because I wanted one, right? And I feel like we're sort of we're a century after Freud, and the psychologists have had their opportunity, and a lot of us are still struggling and feeling overwhelmed and feeling exhausted. And what do? We call our parents, but their experience is so outdated as to be quaint. Or we Facebook our friends.
Don't tell them.
Yeah, well, and then we Facebook our friends, and they're just as clueless as we are. And so when I set out both to write this column in the New York Times about families, which I've been doing now for almost a decade, and in The Secrets of Happy Families, I was like, there's all these new ideas out there. And I think that one of the reasons it has worked is because we have moms in the workplace now. We have dads much more involved in parenting. We have this incredible change going on. And people are saying, well, if in my work we know how to bring people together, or if in my, in my sports team they can bring together, or if in Silicon Valley they're all about adaptability, how can we, what can we learn? So that was my sort of mission. And I think that what I found, and I also said, I didn't want to put things into a list of the 7 things that we have to do because I disagree with number 1, I forget number 5, and I feel like my kids will never go to college, right? But it turned out I had to eat a little crow because certain patterns kept emerging. And so I sort of have what I call my non-list list of things that happy families do. And the first one is that they adapt all the time, right? I thought, I'm a dad. I'll set a few rules. It'll work. Doesn't work that way, right? I can, and so we have gone to a family meeting. We have every week a 20-minute family meeting. And the reason is because this week, mom's on a business trip, or grandma's coming to visit, or this one has a sporting match, or that one has a school play. And so you have to adapt. There's a line, you're talking YouTube and podcasting, right? There's a line in the web, which I think applies to families, which is if you're doing the same thing today that you're doing 6 months ago, you're doing the wrong thing. Like it's changing, and so as a family, you need to adapt. But if you adapted all the time, every day, you'd go crazy. So at the same time, you need, that leads to number 2, you need to talk about a family. What are your values? I talk a lot about a family mission statement, things so that you're changing, but some things you're preserving.
Absolutely. And, you really struck a chord in the genealogy space. Probably didn't even realize it had happened when you talked about the value of talking about where you came from. And I know dear to my heart is the idea that, hey, look, you're not the first person to struggle with something. And guess what? Your folks overcame it. We can do this. Let's talk about it. You really empowered kids to feel like they had a whole cheering section behind them of people who've done it and made it.
And this turns out to be deeply embedded in research. It's not just genealogists kind of preaching to the choir, so to speak here. And that is, these researchers in Atlanta at Duke ask kids 20 questions. Do you know where your grandparents were born? Do you know an aunt or an uncle who had an illness they overcame? Do you know where your parents went to high school, what was going on when you were born? And the kids who knew more about this, who knew more about their family history, had a greater belief that they could influence the world around them. This is by far the biggest idea in The Secrets of Happy Families. I think it's what kept it on the bestseller list as long as it was, because it turns out there's 3 types of narratives. There's an ascending narrative. We came from nothing, our family. We worked hard. We have a lot. There's a descending, right? We had a lot. There was a storm or a war. We lost it all. Or there's an oscillating narrative, right?
Right.
Your grandfather worked hard, went to college, had a house burned down, right? His daughter had breast cancer. And the children who know that they come from an oscillating narrative is exactly what you just said. When they hit a bump, and they're going to hit a bump,
right.
They know that people they know have gotten through it. And so it sounds simple, and maybe even if you're in genealogy, obvious, but I think it's not, because our instinct is to protect our children.
Yes.
And this says, open up the cupboard, bring out the skeletons in an age-appropriate way, and let them know that resilience may be the brightest golden ticket of all.
And you're talking about a different skill set. It's one thing to be a researcher and tell your story to another researcher and try to, come up with the problem solving, but it's another thing to tell a compelling story that hits an emotional point with a child to understand the connectedness, because you're talking about connectedness. You are connected to all these people. And also, we don't all have fabulous people in our family, so you can pick and choose, kind of who you're looking to as mentors.
Well, what I love about this, first of all, it's a great thing for grandparents to do, right? So we know you come over, stop criticizing your kids and their parenting, and be a grandparent and tell them about your life. But one of the things that these researchers told me is that these stories don't have to be true even. You can actually, I had a situation where one of my children was afraid to go to school. I think there was a transition, new school year, and it was hard. Yeah. And I remember sitting down, echoing this research in my mind, and writing a note. I just talked to my mom. She reminded me what I didn't know, which is that when I was your age, I was afraid to go to school once and wanted to go an hour late. And look, I got through it, and I turned out to love school. Yeah. So the point is, it's not passed down through the blood. This is not genealogy as genes and DNA. It's about a narrative of who you are as a family. And that's what I've learned, is that the families who talk a lot about what it means to be part of their family, the strengths and the weaknesses, then you're building a family culture. That's a secret to a happy family.
I love it. He's taking all of these ideas and all this research and this effort that you're putting into your family history research and having it resonate so much more throughout the family, even the ones who don't even get why you're doing it. Bruce, thank you so much for joining us today on Genealogy Gems. And if you enjoyed this, I hope you will check out the book club. And how about down here under the video, you need to click the subscribe button, because we're going to have a lot more videos from Rootstech. Thanks, Bruce.
My pleasure.